Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, and of course, Steve Kallas. How you doing, Steven?
Oh, good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too, man. Let's start this week. We'll look back a little bit. Tuesday night, Game 7, a champion was crowned in the NBA. It was Oklahoma City. I think their 85th win overall this year. Most people had them. I had the Pacers in six. Came down to one game, and unfortunately, their star, Tyrese Halliburton, he had three of four three-pointers in the first 8 minutes, and then his Achilles tendon exploded. He was done for the game. They still led by one at the half. Third quarter, Oklahoma City, they won that quarter by 14 points. They ended up winning the game by 12. That was really the difference. And they deserved it. I'm not taking anything away from them just because Halliburton got hurt, but I think it would have been nice to see an epic ending if everyone was matched up and everyone was healthy. Unfortunately, now Halliburton not only missed the rest of the game, he might miss all next season because that is a major injury, kind of like KD did a few years ago in Golden State against Toronto. They were already down pretty heavily in that series. I think they lost 4 games to one, but that happened. He had a pulled or strained calf, and he played on it, popped his Achilles. We'll get to him in a little bit because he was traded, but unfortunate ending to that game because Pacers had it by one, and then the surge came in the third quarter, and then fourth quarter is about even.
Well, it really is a what could have been, what could have happened. You kind of would have liked to have seen it because Halliburton looked like Halliburton. He made three or four threes in the first, what you said, 7 minutes,
Yeah,
whatever.
bombing away.
Um, and that's what exactly what they needed. And then when he hit the ground, frankly, I thought it was kind of like the other time when he hurt his calf, but I guess it's obviously much worse. And that's kind of sad. Gilgeous-Alexander, definitely the MVP, 29 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds. They got 18 points off of turnovers in the third quarter. I mean, it was just once Halliburton was gone, as you said, though, they're up one at the half. It's still a game in the third corner. But then OKC did what OKC has done to a lot of teams, including the Pacers. But it was just kind of sad. And our guy who was killing it, TJ McConnell, 16.6 rebounds, 3 assists, kept them in the game in the third quarter
Oh, we kept him
at
in
the
the game.
beginning, but seven turnovers was so unlike him. Uh, and I don't want to say he was out of sync, but the team had 23 turnovers for the game. That was the game to me. Seven by TJ. And OKC scored 32 points off those 23 turnovers. Hard to beat anybody
Yeah.
that kind of game. And it was even 56-56 with 8:10 left in the third quarter. And then, as you said, they just kind of did what the
Boom, they
Thunder.
got away. I was almost like waiting for that because when they played Oak City, except for game one late in the fourth quarter, they always had that like 8 to 10 point lead for the most part. I mean, Indiana would shave it away down the stretch, but there it came. Boom, there it was. And it got up to 20, 22, and then it got shrunk down to 12. And that was
Yeah.
fun.
I do want to give Holmgren a little credit because he had 18 points and 5 blocks, and he's really come on. But they said it's the most ever blocks in the finals game seven. Now, I think, again, history wise, I mean, the Lakers and the Celtics, when it was Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, um, and Wilt at some point. But Jerry West, Elgin Baylor against Bill Russell and seven Hall of Famers, they played a lot of game sevens. So I just can't believe that in one of those games, maybe I'll go back and look, maybe it doesn't matter. Or maybe I don't know if they actually kept block shots back in the 60s.
He has 7 blocks, right?
So I got that he had five,
Oh, five. Okay. That's still a
but
lot of
18
blocks.
points. I mean, their big three is a legit big three, and they're all under contract for next year.
Yeah, their core is set.
And the other stat I'll look at is they were 7-0 after a loss in the playoffs. They never lost to Thunder. They never lost two in a row, and that's how you win championships. But you got to give them a lot of credit because they deserve it. But I'm like you. You're not going to say, oh, if Halliburton had played, they would have won. You'll never know.
Never
But it would
know.
be nice to find out legitimately. And I gotta like SGA, man. He's a classy guy. He said
He
that's
is a
a
classy
terrible
guy.
for him. He's a different super duper star. I hope he doesn't become a jerk or anything because he certainly isn't one now, and he's a super duper star. So we'll see what happens. But I assume they're the favorites for next year. I don't really look at that stuff a year in advance, but I don't know how they're not. And I know we're gonna go talk about some other teams now, but when you think about, the Pacers have lost their star, the Celtics have lost their star. Um, who else was it? Some others. Did Kyrie have surgery? Did Kyrie get hurt?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
he had surgery on March
He did get
26th.
hurt. Yeah, I don't know if it was.
So I don't know if it's the 9 months or a year nowadays. Hasn't it been speeding up lately, the
The
recovery from
Achilles, I mean, it's truthfully, I mean, honestly, it's probably about a year, but guys can come back in 9 months. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers was ready to roll even before the season started the next year. Like Adrian Peterson almost broke Eric Dickerson's record on 9 months rest when he came back that one year. Of course, he's an anomaly,
it?
but I mean,
Well,
it's getting shorter.
I don't, if it happened to you in the playoffs like it did to Tatum, then you're trying to get, well, 10 games before the playoffs, if that's
Right.
possible. Um, Kyrie didn't have his surgery till March 26th, but, you know, that's okay for next March 26th, for
Yeah.
example. But Tatum got hurt in the playoffs, and and of course Halliburton got hurt in Game 7, so he's the latest of the whole gang. But yeah, congratulations to the Thunder. I wish it hadn't happened this way. I take nothing away from them. It's the old Joe Staszak, your availability,
Your
your
best
best.
ability is your availability.
I'm gonna have to write that down and like put a post-it up here so I don't forget. But it's true. I mean, that's only 7 minutes in. There was 5:02 left when he fell. It's 7 minutes
And
in.
he
He's
was
three for
hot, like he
four.
was heating up. He was heating
Right.
up.
He's 3 for 4 from three, showing no fear.
No, had all the confidence. I mean, some of those guys you wonder, they have cold games and next you figured out like normal human beings might like that might throw them. No, they just keep shooting. And he was on fire in game seven. I'm like, oh, this could be an epic ending. And then I went up to get something to eat, and Dad goes, my dad was in town. He's like, oh, your boy's down. I thought he was busting my chops because I was telling him like, yeah, how important it is for him to stay healthy this game. And I turned around, he's on the floor, and everyone's around him. It's a shame. It really is a shame because you go that far, and your team has so many comebacks, and he had so many last second shots. It was an epic performance by the Pacers to get where they did. Game seven, this is it. Win or go home game for all the marbles. You never know if you're going to get back there again. And, I give him credit for playing. I would have, I think any competitive athlete, let alone a star slash superstar, is going to give it a shot then.
Yeah, but
With a
but if you
strained calf, yeah.
If you do look at the Pacers for next year, they've got a serious injury. Look at the Celtics. I don't know if they're doing everything else because Tatum, had his Achilles, but they traded Jrue Holiday, who I don't know why you trade these great defenders, although I think you're going to tell me it's
I'm going to
money.
tell you why in a
And
sec.
they traded Porzingis to the Hawks. I feel bad for Porzingis. If he was healthy, I think they could have won the whole thing.
I feel bad
He
for
was number. He
Holiday.
had that weird virus, and
He
I don't know
did. He did.
too much for Boston, or I know you're going to tell us the main reason, but it's how many times do you get so close? You win the championship. I had picked them to be in the finals with OKC. But of course, once Tatum's hurt, it's a different deal.
And that might be a reason because Tatum now, like Halliburton, with the Achilles, he might be gone most of the year. So they're not the same team without Jason Tatum. They have to make some moves. They have to do some things. Here's the deal. It's called the second luxury tax apron in the NBA, and they shaved off 32 million, which were Holiday's salary, and 30 million with 30.7 with Kristaps Porzingis. So they saved 180 million dollars in salary and the taxes that go along with that. They would have been hit, and the reason is the NBA kind of penalizes you for sustained excellence. Like they don't want you being too good that long. So the restrictions on it, if you go over that number, no mid-level exception, no multiplayer trades, you can't do that. Can't no
Wow.
throwing cash in trades and no signing buyout players. So it would have put a stranglehold on some of the things they might need to do to kind of rebuild or at least to build around Tatum's injury, or I mean, I'm sure that maybe they wanted to save some money anyway. That their number was astronomical.
Yeah, but to me, they have no chance. Do they have a chance now to win the championship next year? I think they have no chance. I don't know
Not
what they
really,
are
but I mean,
plus.
even without Tatum, even before this, they got rid of these guys. I'd say, I I mean, you got rid of maybe your best, second best player, first best player. That's Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a chance because they're good, and Jalen Brown's good, and Holiday, like you said, great defender, been in the league almost 20 years. Kristaps Porzingis, when healthy, they had a chance, but I think without Tatum, they're probably thinking, right, we're not in this mix because they were getting beat with him. They would have lost that game that he got hurt in anyway, and the Knicks might have gone on to win that series anyway. It just tells you it's hard to repeat. It's hard to win it once, let alone twice. Listen, Oklahoma City was the seventh different team who won a championship in the last 7 years. No repeat offenders, no repeat champions. Now everyone's, oh well, Oklahoma City's got it next year. I don't know if they're going to win next year. Things happen, injuries happen, teams maybe lose their hunger. You know how hard it is to repeat in these leagues. Look, it was hard
Yeah,
for the Florida Panthers made it to the final 3 years in a row. That is incredibly hard, and they won two of them. That's really hard to do. And they came very close, a goal in overtime here in this game, that game, that could have gone the other way. So, we'll see, but it's like people thought Boston should have won it this year. It's the same team they brought back from last year, and they kind of cruised through it last year, but it doesn't always happen that way. And
right.
so
I'll
we'll
talk
see.
briefly. I'll go briefly on the Mavericks. Kyrie just signed a 3-year extension for 119 million, which strikes me as cheap. 40 million a year. That's how crazy it's become.
Oh my God.
But he also tore his ACL on March 3rd. He had his surgery on March 26th. So on the one hand, you have Kyrie, who's coming off of that injury. You also have AD, who you hope he stays healthy. And then they turn it all upside down. And they get Cooper Flag. They had a 1.8% chance to get the first pick in the
How
draft. They
about
got
that?
Flag, who is still 18 years old, by the way.
He's a kid.
What a trio that is, comma, if healthy. Because
Always if
everybody
healthy.
thinks Cooper Flag is going to be a dominant NBA player from the get-go. We'll see. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. But that's an interesting big three. Um, but again, the health. If he tore his Achilles in March, when will he be back? I don't know. March. That's not a bad thing, by the way. But I
It's
don't
not. You're
know.
going to be healthy, but you
Right.
haven't played in a while. So,
The only other thing to me we should mention is I don't know why this happens. Maybe you do. Kevin Durant to the Rockets. Now they clearly needed a star scorer. They clearly got a star scorer. Um, and they gave up Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, who are two pretty good players. The things I heard, they kind of criticized, well, they have all these other guys and they really didn't need these guys. I don't know. I think they both can play. And also 5 number 2 picks.
yeah, which kind of like, oh, that's great if it was the NFL. Like, in the NBA,
Right,
they're
right.
second round picks. It's amazing. The only real impact players, unless you get a guy that maybe, there's some guys that, break the rule, but really it's like the top 12 or 15 in the first round of the guys you can play. And you might get a guy like, Draymond Green was a second round pick, 35, I think. You'll get some guys in there, but I mean, usually it's like really top heavy in the NBA. I don't know what five
Correct.
second round picks are going to do for you. You might be able to get something out of that, but Kevin Durant, I mean, to me, he's like top five, one of the top five players of all time, and he did nothing in Phoenix to help that team get to the playoffs.
Bizarre.
And
I
when he
don't
went
know
to
why.
Brooklyn, I mean, it's not his fault because I know guys were hurt, but the big three never happened there. He was in such a good spot in Golden State, two Finals MVP awards, playing with Steph, playing with Thompson, playing with Green, Steve Kerr, and what you want to do your own thing and
Sorry,
make your own.
of
Like
course.
really,
Oh, you
Kevin? Like
said Steph. You said Steph. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, like okay, whatever suit makes you happy, but man, like you had something. You want to win, then you stay where he I think and. This isn't, I don't know, Kevin Durant seems like a nice guy. I think he's very sensitive to what people say. And I think a lot of people thought he was lame for going to an already made turnkey winning organization, already hopped on Steph's back. And yeah, he was the MVP. All right. Steph wasn't.
No, I remember 25 years ago writing if Patrick Ewing really wants to win a championship, he should go to the Bulls.
Yeah. Right.
Instead, where'd he go? I think he went to Seattle and just kind of, disappeared.
Yeah.
But I don't blame Durant, especially since he was the MVP. He was the best player those 2 years on that
Back
team.
2 years in a row.
And his ability is still off the charts, unbelievable. But you're right. I don't know why he even talks to people on Facebook or whatever.
Why do you get involved in that,
You're,
Kevin? You're
you're
Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant, man.
You're
You're
Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant.
You're Kevin
Um,
Durant. Stop
and
worrying about what people are saying about you, man.
The one team, now, of course, Dallas did great. They got Cooper Flag. But the one team I found interesting is Utah because Utah at number five took Ace Bailey, who's from Rutgers.
Yeah.
Rutgers had two of the top five picks.
Yep.
And they weren't very good, I don't believe, during
They
the
were they
season.
were two games. They were like 15 and 17.
But I love their second choice, and you probably saw this. The Utah at number five took Ace Bailey, but they also took Walter Clayton Jr. Now, Walter Clayton Jr., who you know was the most outstanding player, leading Florida to that victory.
Yep.
So interesting to me because he played 2 years for Rick Pitino at Iona, which everybody seems to not know.
That's
And then
amazing.
I did read an article that Patina was going from Iona to St. John's and wanted Walter Clayton Jr. to come with him, but Walter Clayton Jr. is from Florida. He had wanted to play for Florida. I think his girlfriend just had a baby and lives in Florida. So he had a chance to go back to Florida. This was his second year this year, but he's the MOP of the Final Four. He's a
Yep.
national champion.
Yep.
And I love the way he plays. Now, will that be a full translate to the NBA? And we'll have to see, because I think Ace Bailey will. And of course, the other guy, Dylan Harper, who was drafted number two by the Spurs, by the way, him and Wemby, if Wemby's okay. But he's Ron Harper's kid.
Yeah.
Harper was an excellent
Got good
NBA
genes.
player. So I think, there's a lot of, what I always say, wake me up in 3 years on this guy. I don't want to take anything away. The one guy who dropped a lot, who I was surprised at, who I did watch play, was that Janai Broom from Auburn.
Yeah.
Was the SEC Player of the Year. He was an All-American at Auburn, and he
Yeah.
went to year 76s. He was picked 35th in the draft, Joe.
Yeah. You wonder
I don't
why. I
know.
don't exactly know why some guys drop. You know what's getting a lot of traction around here is that Ace Bailey was kind of slotted to go number three. For the most part, before his agent told him, like, there was one team I think he told in the top, we're not, don't pick us, we're not signing with. Not sure which team it was. He kind of didn't show. He did certainly didn't show up for workouts with the Sixers when they invited him. Didn't really. It kind of
He
had a
didn't go
little.
to anybody, right? He didn't.
No,
I
he
don't
did
think he
not.
went
It
to
kind of,
anybody.
and again, I don't know all the facts. I don't want to throw this out there as fact, but like, Shedeur Sanders dropped to the fifth round because of attitude and kind of the way he carried himself. Ace Bailey was showing a little bit of that, like maybe some red flags with that. Maybe he didn't want to play in Philly because he wanted to go to a team. Well, if you're that good, you're going to go high in the draft. You're probably going to go to a team that's not very good. But anyway, so Sixers pass on him and they take BJ Hedgecomb from the Bahamas, a freshman for Baylor. So very athletic. He's a guard, played shooting guard this last year, 15 points a game. And Bailey dropped to number five and went to Utah. The only reason it's interesting is because Danny Ainge happened to be in Utah, and his son's the GM, and he's the CEO. And there's a lot of, oh God, is this another Markelle Fultz, Jason Tatum? Like Danny Ainge knows more than like the Sixers do, and like our guy's going to be like average, and they took Ace Bailey, who turns it, you know what I mean? Like there's that Danny Ainge
Yeah.
factor. Everyone's like, oh, here we go. He knows something, and the Sixers just messed up again. That's kind of what's getting a lot of traction right now. If he is, I don't know. I mean, he didn't. His reaction, Ace Bailey's after he was selected there. He didn't seem that enthused to be going to Utah either. So, I don't know what the kid wants. You know what I mean? He by not going number three and putting all that out there and dropping a five, he lost $9 million in the rookie salary scale. So his agent didn't do him any favors, I don't think. But
Well, maybe he should have gone and just tried out for a few guys,
you know what I mean, right?
What's
Go
the
through the
big
go through the
deal?
process. Go through the process.
Then you could trust it, right? Just kidding.
Not in Philly. Oklahoma City kind of did the same process, and they picked the right guys and worked in
Uh-huh.
2012. They went to the finals, and then they picked the right guys. Like it would have worked in Philly if they selected the right guys. They took Jahlil Okafor, and I don't know if Embiid was the right guy, but he was the right guy at the time. I mean, he's tremendous generational player, but he's just never healthy, and I'm not sure if he has the mindset. But then they took Ben Simmons back-to-back years from Markelle Fultz, a train wreck, just an absolute train wreck. But so there you have it. All right, let's talk a little baseball before we get out of here. You want to talk about a certain pitcher who was He's pretty dialed in his first three games.
Oh, this is the second time I saw him pitch just by accident because I had it on. But Jacob Mizorowski, who's pitching for the Brewers, was actually pitching against Paul Skeens, who everybody thinks is like he's the favorite for the Cy Young. I don't know now. He's 4-7 playing on a
Well,
horrific
he keeps throwing
Pirates
these like
team.
one hit, 7 inning games and he loses.
Yeah, this time he gave up 4 earned runs for the first time, I think. Certainly the first time this year. But this Jacob Mizorowski, he's now pitched 3 games. I think it's 15 innings. It might be 1 inning more. But he's 3-0 in 3 games, and he's given up a total of 3 hits in the 3 games. Not 3 hits per game, 3 hits
In the
in
three games.
15 or 16 innings. That's incredible. So he's 3-0. His ERA is 1.13. And if there's any way you can watch these guys pitch, in fact, I think they said he's pitching against the Mets, his next start. I don't know. I think it's the end of the weekend, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what day it is. Somebody said July 2nd. But if you have a chance, if they can make that a national TV game, everybody should watch this guy pitch. He's nasty, unbelievable, throws hard, big time slider, is just excited to be playing. And I think, a month ago, nobody knew who he was. But I give him credit, but he beat Paul Skeens, which he also gets credit for. Gave up 4. Brewers won 4-2. That was on Wednesday night. So it should be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I guess he'll be pitching Monday, right? So we'll see what happens with him. But I can't see Paul Skeens. Is he going to be with the Pirates for like 6 or 7 years before he's a free agent?
They said they're
And
not trading him. Yeah, he's going to be there a while. That's how it works.
the only other guy I did want to talk about, we've talked about him before. These are incredible numbers he's putting up. Cal Raleigh is the switch hitting catcher for Seattle. And we had talked about him and all the home runs he hit and how many. He became the first switch hitter in MLB history. This takes in a lot of ground. Like Mickey Mantle comes to mind, among others, but he's the first switch hitter, not just the first catcher, first switch hitter in history, Major League Baseball history, to have 30 or more home runs by the All-Star break. Now, sometimes they don't always play 81 games and take the All-Star break.
Right.
So I'd have to do a little research on that because, Mantle won the Triple Crown in 56 and, whatever. But this guy is unbelievable. I think he's an MVP candidate. He's a
Sure.
catcher, but he's a switch hitting catcher. By the way, he won a platinum gold glove last year for catchers. So how good is this guy? Man, imagine if he was in New York.
Right.
So I think he's a guy to keep watching, keep an eye on. But he has 32 home runs already. That was as of Tuesday. I don't think he hit any Wednesday. Um, but he's a guy you want to watch. These are great young players, not good young players. These are great young players that I think you want to take a look at. Cal Raleigh is certainly one of them. Jacob Mizorowski is another. And of course, Paul Skeens. Now you just feel bad for the guy because it's what you said. He's lights out and loses 1-0. Gives up 4 runs, the game is over. He has no chance.
He pitched an 8 inning, 1 run
Yeah.
game to the Phillies, and it was Tommy Abel's first outing as a major league player. He shut out the Pirates,
Well,
in one
nothing,
game.
baby. Yeah.
It's amazing because Skeen, he's the real deal. He really is the real deal. But yeah,
Right.
the catcher is in Seattle is unbelievable. I don't think Otani and Judge have like 28. They're close to 30, but he's got 32. That's ridiculous.
Incredible. It's
I thought, what do
incredible.
you think about it? I don't know if this was being sarcastic or they were trying to pretend that they were Philadelphia fans, but when the Yankees went through that, where they scored no runs in 3 games, the third game, Judge struck out like 4 times, but he'd been hitting like 900 for the rest of the season before. They kind of booed him. They booed him in that last about. What was that?
It's Bush League. I mean,
I mean, like, really? You're gonna
it's
boo
Bush
Aaron
League.
Judge?
The guy's done everything in the world, except win a World Series, by the way. And look, I remember writing when they tore down the old Yankee Stadium and they opened the new Yankee Stadium. I remember writing the column. I think that's 2009. Yeah,
Yeah,
2009.
2009 was the first
Because
year.
because they won their first. Yeah, I remember
Won the
writing
first
them. It's
year.
not the same. I'm sure I said this to you. Maybe I talked about it a few times. I wrote when my father took me to Yankee Stadium. He pointed to right field. That's where Babe Ruth played. He pointed to center field. That's where Joe DiMaggio played. He pointed to first base. That's where Lou Gehrig played. When I took my son to the games when he was young, and we went to a bunch of games, I said, "See right field. That's where Babe Ruth played. See center field. That's where Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio played. See first base. That's where Lou Gehrig played." Now, If and when he has a children and he takes them to see the Yankees, what is he going to say? Oh, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig. Yeah, they played across the street,
Right. They played across the street.
which is now a baseball field, by the way. And I just remember thinking that I thought it was such a mistake. And look, I'm not going to say they haven't won more because they didn't stay at the old Yankee Stadium. Everybody needs those suites. I've been in one of those suites. I never was one of them. I went at the old stadium. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine how much they're, 1,000 a game or whatever they're getting. And all the teams are doing this. So, but frankly, they've won one in the 21st century.
And that was their
That's not the
27th, I
Yankees.
think. Yeah.
But for Aaron Judge to be booed, I mean, he is a super duper star. I've always said there's never going to be someone who's going to crack Ruth, Garrick, DiMaggio, Mantle. This guy has a chance.
He
The
does.
problem is always going to be for him, no matter what he wins, he's not going to sniff what Ruth and Garrick won or what
Right.
Mickey Mantle won or what Joe DiMaggio, they talk about Bill Russell, 11 out of 13. Well, Joe DiMaggio was in 10 World Series as a Yankee. They won nine. No,
That's
there were times they didn't win the pennant, so you could say, well, man, Russell always made the playoffs. Yeah, but you didn't have to come in first to make the playoffs in the
right.
NBA. So Joe DiMaggio, 9-1,
Pretty good.
pretty good.
Pretty
So
good.
I'll leave it there. I was always disappointed though when they closed Yankee Stadium for that very reason. Kids who go to Yankee Stadium today, or frankly, for the last 20 years, 15 years, 16 years now.
I
They've seen
covered
a
that
winner, but they've never seen a champion.
covered that series with the when they played the Phillies in '09. Nice stadium, supposedly just like the other one, but the other one is where the guys played. So that makes a difference. That rings true with all the stars you mentioned. I never got a chance to see them play there,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I just found it disappointing because whatever you think of the Red Sox, Fenway Park is still there.
Still
Whatever,
there.
whatever you think of the Cubs, who are good this year, by the way, Wrigley Field is still there.
Yep.
And they opened years before Yankee Stadium. I know Fenway opened the year of the Titanic, so that was 1912.
12. Yeah.
Yankee Stadium opened 1923. I wish they could have kept it. And nobody said boo when it was 100 years in 2023. Why? They're playing in a new stadium for,
Right. No one, no one
years
cares
and
at that
years by
point.
then. So I found it to be very sad. That's just me. I'm an old timer. I just wish my kid would have the opportunity, if and when he has kids, to have taken them where I took them. I took my son and my dad took me. And, we go to 35 games a year and sit in the bleachers for $1.
Right. Oh yeah, totally.
We didn't have a lot of
Yeah, try
money.
doing that nowadays.
Yeah, good luck with that.
You can
And
buy
that's
like
a whole other thing.
buy an
Back then,
eighth of a hot dog.
we rooted for the players to get the money back then. Drysdale and Koufax held out together for $100,000. They'd be $40 million a year pitchers now,
That's like
both
a
of them.
that's like a fine these days when you throw at somebody's head. It's like that's your fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I told you the great Drysdale fine. Drysdale was one of those guys. He said, "You hit one of my guys, I'll hit two of yours," and he said that. And so he hit a few guys, and he got suspended. He got fined $100. And he waited till the next time the Dodgers were in New York to play the Mets, and these are the early Mets, in the 60s. And he went to the offices are still there on Park Avenue in Manhattan, Major League Baseball. He went there with $100 in pennies, and that's how he paid the fine. I love
after
Don Drysdale. He was a whack job. He was a talented guy, but he was nuts.
that's funny. I like that. I like him.
You know the story in the 55 World Series. Was it 55? Yeah, I think it was 1955. Uh, Koufax wouldn't pitch because game one was on Yom Kippur, the most, religious holiday for the Jewish people. And he didn't pitch. So Drysdale was number two and he started. I'm trying to think if it was a different year. 55 sounds, no, it's too early. It must have been in the 60s. Uh, and Drysdale started game one. In fact, now I remember I think it's the Minnesota series because Koufax didn't pitch game one. Drysdale pitched game one. Pretty sure it was that series. He got knocked around, and when the manager came out to take him out, he looked at the manager and said, "I bet you wish I was Jewish too." I mean, come on. I think there's a book on Drysdale. I
I
can't
like
say
that. I like him already.
he's one of a kind. He was married to the woman, the big woman who played for UCLA, early superstar basketball player. I can see her, but I can't remember her name. But in any event, he's another Hall of Fame pitcher, of course. But back then you hit guys. Now if you buzz a guy, the bench is empty. But back
Pretty
then it was,
much.
Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson, I think it was Bob Gibson. He broke somebody's
Yeah.
arm because they laid down a bunt for a hit. The next time up, he broke his arm. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying, things were different then. That's all.
They were different then, man. That's like, if you see your pitcher hit someone, you're like, oh, because you're going up against Gibson, you know he's coming back at you.
Exactly.
You're hoping you're not like one of the stars, but like the Dodgers and Padres like one of the Padres said, doesn't matter who's up for the Dodgers, they're all stars. They're all targets. You know what I mean? And they are.
I still think the Dodgers are the best team. Otani's starting to pitch. Um, and I saw our guy Clayton Kershaw, who is now 4-0 in the regular season. I mean, they gave him
Don't
like
talk to me
17
until
million
October
one
about
year.
Clayton Kershaw.
No, I just, are you going to rely on him in the playoffs? It's always that
No,
question.
sorry, you're not. It's a Steve Kallas rule. He's Peyton Manning in the playoffs in baseball. It just
Um,
is.
don't look at me.
Look,
Just look at the records. Don't
look
look
at
at
the
me.
scoreboard doesn't lie. It just doesn't. I don't know why, but he hasn't. I don't know what happens in the playoffs, but he doesn't pitch like he does. Same thing with Peyton Manning in the regular season. I don't get it. They're both Hall of Fame players. I don't know. Hopefully, Aaron Judge kind of picks it up in the postseason because that's kind of a knock on him. He doesn't hasn't
Well,
done
that
it.
is a knock on him, but I'll say it again. No matter how many he wins, he ain't catching those guys.
No,
Do I
that's
put him in their caliber as a baseball player? I'll see a few more years, but 62 homers to me, he's the home run king.
it's
I really believe
ridiculous. I
that.
mean, and I don't
And
even know if I'd pitch to him. I'd rather put him on first and take a
right.
shot. If he's
And he can't hit 400. I don't think anybody can hit 400, but he's still hitting like in the 380s or
yeah,
something.
he's special.
He's just an incredible hitter, excellent fielder, got a gun for an arm. He's a five-tool player.
6'7". I mean, how many was he like 6'7"? How many baseball players you see are that big and that tall and can do that much?
Yeah, I'll give you
Unbelievable.
one more name to look at. There's
Yeah,
a there's a guy named James Wood, Wood, 6'7", 230. He's playing for the Nationals. I just saw highlights of him the other day. Right now, he's top 10 in home runs, RBI, slugging percentage, and OPS. When you see this guy swing the bat, he's got a sweet swing and he's 6'7", 230, and he's lefty.
wow.
So he's one to watch out for too. If the Nationals are on, at this point with these guys, especially now, no hockey, no basketball, these are the time to really watch these guys and see how much they grow over the span of a year. I mean,
Sure.
Raleigh has a chance to hit 60 homers, I guess. I
Oh, he
don't,
totally. He already has 32. Not even the All-Star break. So that's
and he's a switch hitter. You know how that helps.
yep. Good stuff,
So,
bro. Good stuff.
yeah.
You catch Steve stuff on his daily Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports, with Steve Kallas. Also, his videos on WestchesterCountyPost.com. Also, this podcast on YouTube every week, as well as the audio outlets, Spotify, Apple, etc. You can follow me on Twitter at JoeStazek975 or on Instagram at JoeStazek4799. Good stuff, Steven. We'll see you on the flip side next week.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too. Appreciate it, folks. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Talk to you next week.